Hey everyone, it's Tim here, and in today's video I want to answer some more teacher questions, and these ones are around pop. So the first question is, kids seem more interested in learning pop songs these days, but if we skip the scales, technique, sight reading, how am I meant to get them past grade 1? How do other teachers make pop useful rather than just a parade of the latest hits? Super question. Firstly, I would never recommend skipping scales, technique, sight reading, etc. All of those things are super important. But what I want to consider is balance. How could you blend them all together and use pop as a bit of a conduit to cover some of those skills that you know that students need? Now, one of my first suggestions to teachers is, if you're working from home and you have the flexibility, try for 45-minute lessons, because you naturally will have more time to cover things. Now, I know that's not possible for those of you working in music schools or high schools or whatever it is. You're probably stuck to 30 minutes. So we've got to make pop more useful, because we don't want to just say, no, we're not doing pop. We're only going to do these exam pieces, because what tends to happen is that students, they might go along with that for a little while, depending on their age. But eventually they will probably quit lessons because they're not seeing achievement in the things that they want to do. Remember that as a teacher, we have to have this constant state of flexibility and alignment between what the student wants to do and play and what we know the student should do and want to need to play in order to become a better instrumentalist or vocalist. So we've constantly kind of walking this alignment tightrope. And it's tricky. It really is tricky. One of the things that can help ground that decision for you can be the vision that you have for your studio and your students. This is really important. What kinds of students are you trying to create? If you are very much trying to create students who can pass exams and play for festivals and competitions and things like that, then that will be a very different approach to a teacher who is looking to create students who are much more holistic. They're all-rounder students who can sing and play and improvise and accompany and play a lead sheet and play for their worship services on the weekends, whatever it is. So the first thing is to get that straight in your mind. And then you need to align that with, depending on the age of the student, what the student wants to do, what their goals are for their own music learning. And if they're a teenager or an adult, they need to have a big say in that. And also what the parent, if the parent's involved for younger children, what their aspirations are. Because if they're just driven exam, and you're not that kind of teacher and the child isn't that kind of student, then there's going to be some conflict and there's going to be some discussions that need to happen, right? So the question is, how do teachers make pop useful rather than just a parade of the latest hits? So my first sort of follow-on from what I was just saying is, make sure that as much as you possibly can, that you're aligning yourself with the student. So the student is achieving some of their goals and you're achieving some of your goals. It should be a win-win. This is what we would call a shared curriculum. So the teachers not fully leading, the students not fully leading, there's a bit of a balance. Now, when it comes to the actual pop music, how do you actually do that? Well, understanding chords is fundamental to particularly piano teaching and music understanding more generally. Because students get pop naturally, because that's what they've grown up with, it's what they listen to, because they kind of understand it, unlike, let's say, a Baroque piece or a classical sonata, harder to understand. They've got to really think. We've got to teach them about it. They've got to learn how it works, how it sounds, how to interpret it. Pop music's not like that. Pop music comes naturally. So it's a great way to explore some of these areas, scales, keys, harmony, chords of music that is going to set them up for improvement in areas like sight reading and understanding of scales. And obviously oral, like the ability to hear and play. I've got a framework which I presented in a course, which we'll put a link to that, called Piano Flicks Teaching Pop Piano. It's very much an evergreen course, i.e. the concepts of it, doesn't matter what pop song you're trying to teach your student, it will work. But the basic understanding here is that the best way to teach a pop song is not through trying to read an arrangement. Pop songs are incredibly syncopated and very difficult to play looking at the rhythm on a page. So what I really encourage teachers to do is listen to the song with the student, particularly if you haven't heard it before, and try and work out the chord progression. Try and work out the bass line movement, the tonic dominant, where the chords are, and then play it from there. That's your starting point. That's your building blocks, the foundations of the learning that's going to happen. Now that in itself is an incredibly powerful learning experience for students, particularly if you do it with them. So I would always have it in the back of your mind. Yeah, I know what this chord progression is, but try and tease it out of the student. Ask lots of questions, get them listening, get them thinking. And then using the circle of fifths, find out what your key area is and then what chords are involved in this progression, and does that align with the framework that I present in my teaching about pop songs. And you can find lots of that information at topmusic.co/chords if you're unfamiliar with it. You start then to pull it apart, start then to be able to improvise, work out the scales. This is where scales comes into it. So all of these things can be connected and can very much develop and improve students' skills in their regular repertoire through pop. But as I said right at the start, it's about balance. I'm not talking about skipping all of the exam stuff. Don't skip the sight reading, don't skip the reading. Students need these skills, but it's about balance. A little bit of pop here, make it practical and valuable to what you know that they need to learn, the skills that they need to have. So that's my, in a nutshell, overview of the answer to that question about making pop useful and trying to fit it into lessons. And I hope it was really helpful for you. We'll put links to some of the resources that I've mentioned and those that can help you with this if you're really new to it. And I really hope you check those out. Let me know if you've got any questions or comments.